We are going live in three, two, one. Roll the footage. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Simon Severino, your host. And my guest today is the franchise guide. He will explore with us the power of leverage and how you can use it for your business and ways to convert your current business into a franchise. Welcome, everybody, Giuseppe Grammatico.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Giuseppe,
And you said the name perfectly. That's perfect. So
yeah, how do people say your name in the US?
yeah, it's Giuseppe, or it goes down to G. So it's a lot easier. It's hard to spell as well.
Hey G, what are you currently creating?
Creating right now educational videos on talking about job versus being a business owner, the benefits of having a side hustle, who a franchise is for, who it's not for. So just educational content for anyone looking to explore business ownership.
Who are franchises for?
Franchises are for people looking to follow a system. People that want that unfair advantage, that aren't so enamored, so kind of, they want to know everything about the widget. They are for people that really want that lifestyle, so that vehicle to get them to, not miss a soccer game, just like I did in my current situation. Never wanted to miss a soccer game, wanted to go to all the school events. So it's for someone that really wants a system and that output, that outcome, I should say, and not so much concerned about the widget, the brand colors, and all those other little things that go along with owning it or starting any business.
Oh, I love this because they don't teach you that in business school, but building a brand, building a business is a lot of work. It might take you like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You might even fail. So, who is this for? Do I need? So I have a spark that I want to do something on my own, but I don't want. What is it exactly that I don't want to do?
So the franchise is really for it's business. I don't even call it an industry. It's a business in every industry. You name the industry or the investment level, there's a franchise available. So it's that real unfair advantage. It's for that person that wants to get up and running quick. Go to training and start making money. Start really following that system, generating money, building something. And it can also be, which most people don't realize in franchising, it could be a side hustle. So it doesn't have to be that restaurant that everyone talks about, the Chick-fil-A's and the McDonald's. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's literally a franchise in every industry. So for that person who isn't sure that they want to leave their job today, they can have that side hustle. They can have a mosquito spraying business on the side while maintaining their full-time day job, and then transition in 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever works for them. There's no right or wrong answer here. So franchising is really just a way to give you that unfair advantage, a system that's been put in place for you. And going back to who the right fit is, if you have no intention on following the system, then maybe you don't want a franchise. Maybe you want to start something for the ground up, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you really are committed to following that system, go for it. There's so many different advantages, and we can spend the whole show talking about the advantages of a franchise.
Because for me, the most fun part in building a brand is actually building the brand and building the processes. But some people go, no, no, no. Processes, branding? No, 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 no. Give me something, let me go directly plug and play. And so, what are some examples of people who started a franchise and how fast do they get into profitability?
Yeah, so we work with people all over the U.S. and Canada in helping them find that franchise. So I always say the franchising world is there's two worlds, right? The left side is service based, where you don't really need a brick and mortar physical location, and a lot of those businesses, you invest in the franchise, you go right to training, and you're up and running in as little as 30 to 90 days. So it could be things like a business coaching franchise where you're helping business owners restructure after COVID, reduce their expenses, help tame their staff. It could be things, as I mentioned before, mosquito spraying, anything in that home service industry. Doing work at a home. People are working from home, so the demand's up. So it could be painting, it could be cleaning, it could be lawn care. So those are up and running relatively quickly. Literally training, and you're off to the races. The online marketing kicks in, and you're putting together your team. And maybe down the road, you kind of expand and get into an office. And on the complete opposite side, you have retail, brick and mortar, and that's, you're physically looking for a location. So that could be your restaurants, like we were talking about before. It could be hair salons. It could be salon suites where you're allowing people to rent a small space in your facility and run their business with one, two, or three chairs. Massage therapy and things like that. Those businesses tend to have a bigger ticket, bigger investment because there's a build out. You need to find that space. So, you have to first find the space and work with the landlord, build it out, permits and things like that. So I always say a safe bet, aim at 6 months to up to a year to get that business up and running. So if you really want that brick and mortar location, plan on spending some additional time approved. There's been shortages, contractors are behind, so it takes a little bit longer. But if you have that time span, great. If not, we've had people, kind of as an example, start off with a service business, and then their next business happens to be in a retail space. Maybe they go in and look at a restaurant. So the businesses that don't have to have anything to do with one another, although there are benefits if you stay in your space, in your industry. So you have plenty of options, and the key part of all this, you need zero experience 99% of the time. That 1%, you have specialty companies that you need that experience or that network, but the franchise company will train you from the ground up. You don't need any experience marketing. Some companies, you want a sales background or a certain skill set, such as with business coaching. You want to have B2B experience working with other business owners and going out and obtaining new clients. But for the most part, no experience needed. They'll they sometimes they prefer no experience because they want to really train you from the ground up.
And who should not pursue a franchise business?
The people that should not pursue are the people that are not willing to follow that system. So I answer it this way, why the top reasons why franchisees fail. And so it's number one is you don't follow the system, which is silly because that's what you're buying. You're buying a system, you're buying a network, you're buying vendors, you get economies of scale. There's so many benefits, but it's not the right fit for everyone. So the people that shouldn't buy or one of the main reasons for failure is just not following the system. You get excited, you buy the brand, and then you decide to kind of recreate the wheel. Second is money. You need to have money to open any business, which sounds like common sense, but in a franchise world, you pay with a franchise fee. A non-franchise, you pay with your time. Sometimes that cost is even more because it's going to take you much longer to get that business up and running. So you want to have enough money for the business because it may take you several months. It may take you a year to become cash flow positive. But at the same time, if you're leaving your job time for this venture, who's paying your mortgage? Who's paying your rent? And for the kids' school, and the list goes on. So you want to make sure you have 3 to 6 months living expense on the side. You want to make sure you have some working capital for that business. So those are kind of the two main. And then the third is buying it just the wrong business. I see that all the time where you say, Simon, look, my neighbor's making a killing with this particular franchise. I'm just going to buy the same thing, to find out, that particular business has lots of employees, lots of turnover, and that's not something you wanted in a business. And you end up making a few bucks in the beginning, and then long term, 1, 2, 3 years down the road, you start to get miserable because this is a business that you just hate because you're just dealing with constant turnover in that business. So it's really finding, and what we specialize in is really finding that match, finding the right match for you, for your specific situation that's going to be sustainable for the long term.
What made you fall in love with the franchise world?
Yeah, so we owned an Italian restaurant and loved the business. I just hated the hours. It was weekends, nights, holidays. So went back to college. I'm first generation. My family's from Italy, and went back to school. Hated the corporate grind. I felt like I was a number. So I said, I want a business, but I don't want to be a restaurant. So doing some exploring, I realized I like systems in place. I don't like to create the system from scratch. I like to tweak it. I like to make changes to it. And I had a business coach years ago, and I don't know if you know the book, What Color is Your Parachute? She said the color of your parachute are systems in place that you can run with, which is the exact definition of a franchise. So reached out to a franchise coach here in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, and we started exploring what do I want my life to look like? What am I looking to accomplish? And they said, these businesses are set up to investment, training, and I was off to the races in as little as 30 days. And I said, yeah, I love that. I love that idea. Let's go for it. And it checks off all the boxes. So I was not the creative type to create everything from scratch, whereas it may be a great fit for others. So that was the draw for me, something that's proven. And I was able to, be profitable and cash flow positive quickly within 90 days of launching that business. But I didn't have, as to some people, I didn't have the, flexibility to create the colors and the brand in every system. But I was fine with that because that's not something I was looking for.
So 30 days to get you up to speed, 90 days to get you to profitability. And how many days until you were out of running the business, basically just owning it and enjoying it grow?
Yeah, so for me, it took a little while. The brand I was particular with was a newer brand, so some of the systems they were still testing out. So it took me a few years, and part of that was on me. It was my first business I own 100%, so it was the letting go. So we talk about learning things over the years and making things better from one business to the next. So it was really giving someone control of the business with those systems in place, but allowing them to make some of those decisions when I was not available. So at some points I was a bottleneck in the business, and I admit that, and we've obviously fixed that. It took a couple years to learn the business and really transition into to hiring a general manager that got a cut of the profitability of the business and that was able to truly run the business, that I had a real kind of comfort level with, that I can trust, so that if I was away on vacation, I knew that individual can run the day to day. So that'll vary, but at the end of the day, all the systems and trainings in place are great, but you need to, as the owner, be able to empower that person and let go, because you can't do everything.
That's the most important thing. And so many here listening right now are like, oh, yeah, I'm also the bottleneck. I'm also the bottleneck. And I feel with you. So let's go deeper into how it felt and how you were able to remove yourself as being the bottleneck after one word from our sponsors. What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com. How was your process of realizing that you're the bottleneck, but then actually letting go?
Yeah, so I realized immediately, because I noticed that my inbox was full, and if the decision fell on me. So if it took me 2 hours to get to an email, I realized that was a 2 hour bottleneck, right? That was a 2 hour delay in the process. So I realized right away, but it was, how do I go about fixing this bottleneck? So when I did hire that person to run the day to day, my general manager, I told them this was, we kind of left it very loose, that unless it was someone ready to cancel a contract, or if there was any type of legal situation or anything that was that really just got escalated to where I needed to be involved, they can handle it. But so we left it at that. I kept it very loose, being my first time business owner, and that did not work. It wasn't specific enough. There was a lot of questions there. So we spent the day. We went off site. We left the office. We grabbed some lunch. Visited a few customers, and we talked about just a process from getting a new customer to maintaining that customer, what happens in the event if there's an issue. So we talked about the entire process together, where there are issues, where he needs to step in, where I need to step in. So we got very specific and documented it and said, okay, these are the situations that I need to be involved. I don't need to okay and give my blessing on every single decision you make. Every decision you make, I had this I still remember the conversation, is the right decision. And that was my aha moment, because in the past, he'd make a decision and right away I said, well, I would have done this differently. And I caught myself immediately, because I'm giving this individual, my manager, all this authority and all this power to run the business, but then I'm critiquing him. So what I did was I told him, I will back you up in every decision you make, but once a week when we have our weekly meetings, I want to be kind of brought into what was going on, and we can talk about ways to improve. I can always improve. Maybe that decision could have been handled a little bit differently, but it wasn't so much of a critique, but it was more of a office meeting where we all got involved. We were all on the same page, so that we all knew, okay, these are ways that we can possibly improve, or ways we could have handled the situation a little bit differently. So I am not perfect by any means. I've learned a lot. I continue to learn, but the key is you can't keep it general. You need to get extremely specific. And if it takes a day, it was the best investment I could have made. Got a little bit behind on emails, but I was able to really document, these are the questions. These are, this is maybe other people in the organization that should be empowered. The bookkeeper should be able to handle X, Y, and Z and not have to, bring in the entire office on every single decision. So I think documentation and getting really specific really helped me out. And it got better. Was it perfect? No, there was always areas or anomalies that came up. We weren't certain, but it definitely helped. And I was able to really back off on the business, where I was at one point, able to go in the office just on Wednesdays for our weekly meetings.
Any specific books or podcasts where you get your inspiration from?
Yeah, I mean, for a while, it was all business, and everyone recommends the E-Myth Revisited, one of my books that truly stand out. But if I were to mix it up a little bit, number one, it would be Who Not How. It's a business book, but it's almost by Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach, and it talks about the advantage that you can have. It's not about knowing how to get there. I have a 10-year vision, and it's not about, okay, how do I get there step by step? It's who's going to help me get to that point, who has already figured out the necessary steps to get there. So Who Not How, very, very quick read, highly recommended. It explains it all right there in the title. Another one is on the marketing side, which is my big aha, and then I'll go non-business. They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan, runs the Impact Plus. Love the book. It's a simple methodology, and the methodology is this: be honest, answer people's questions, not what you think their questions are, but ask your clients, whoever you work with, your colleagues, anyone in your organization, their questions, concerns, and answer them 100% honestly. Put them up on a blog, podcast, what have you, and get it on there. And that's how you truly build authority in your market, and most important thing, building trust. So They Ask You Answer, had Marcus on the show. Awesome book. And then from a lifestyle standpoint, I'd like to read about lifestyle, working out, and you can appreciate this. The Blue Zones. There's about 5 different books. One of the Blue Zones happens to be in Italy, in Sardinia, and it's a book about where 7 blue zones, where the most amount of centenarians live, and they simplify it. And it's not what you even expect, but it's all about lifestyle, where the healthiest regions are in the world. It's not about, believe it or not, eating fish. It's about a lot of the lifestyles. It's about eating plant-based. It's about eating a small amount of pork in their meal. It's about having, your group of friends, that your tribe, as they call it, and taking care of yourself. Even some red wine in there, which was cool. So drinking is in there. It's one of the recommendations. So the Blue Zones, simple way without getting overly technical about living a healthy life, because that's what it's all about. So those are my top three recommendations right now.
That's beautiful. And what's next for you? What are you excited about looking forward?
What's next for me? That's a good question. I've been playing with the idea of writing a second book. I wrote my first book and launched my podcast, Franchise Freedom, right here in the background. Back right in the beginning of the pandemic, February and March of 2020, thinking about writing a second version of that. But my right now, the real thing I'm working on is actual systems. Believe it or not, I am an independent right now. I am not a franchise owner, franchisee. So I am putting together systems in my CRM. I use a company by the name of Zoho One, and putting together and implementing videos that talk about everyone's challenges and common questions and concerns and things like that. But when people actually start working with me, automating a process so they get a series of one or two videos that walk them through one topic, because this is a very overwhelming thing, learning about business ownership, or if you own a business, how to transition into franchise ownership. But so educational content to really inspire people, educate people. A lot of people rule themselves out. I can't own a franchise. I don't have $1 million. You don't need $1 million. You don't even need close to $1 million to open a franchise. So we talk about funding, and we talk about the different different ways to invest in a business. So what excites me is that I like to level the playing field. If you're educated, non-educated, millionaire or not, anyone could potentially own a business if it's the right fit. So my goal and my what kind of gets me excited every day is, let me educate you, and once you raise your hand and say, yeah, that this works for me, this is what I want to I want my life to look like, then we set up a call, and we never charge for our service. Our fees are paid from the franchise companies. So it's really giving people that rule themselves out because they feel like they don't come from money, or they're not have an MBA, or never even went to college. I feel like I'm giving everyone a fighting chance. And for those that are willing to invest some time, and that's all it costs with me, it's time. Great. If you don't have the time, then I would say that the timing is not right for a franchise. Figure out where you can save some time, and we'll have that conversation.
And where can people find you?
So you can go right to the website. So Giuseppe Grammatico, very very long one, to spell and even say. So GG, my initials, the franchise guide, and that's GUIDE. So GG, the franchise guide. You have access to 110 episodes of our Franchise Freedom podcast, where we cover a great episode. I had my buddy here, Simon, on the show as well, not too long ago. We've had Marcus Sheridan from They Ask You Answer. So take a look. We have a different topic. You could download our book, Franchise Freedom, as well, for if you're stuck between that job and owning that business, or how to do both. We also have a webinar. So all free resources. If that's too much to digest at once, we have 25 of our top FAQs exactly from that book, They Ask You Answer, where we answer exactly the questions I get on a daily basis. Top 25. I would advise anyone to go through there and check it out.
How recession proof is starting a franchise right now?
That's a good question. So, everything going on in the economy, you definitely want to pay attention to the businesses, and certain businesses really are not affected by the recession, by the economy. So things such as water and smoke mitigation and disaster restoration. Sometimes we all have opinions. I felt when I started my search in 2005 that health and beauty and spending money on yourself was the way to fail, the path to failure, because the economy was going south. And I was actually really wrong, and I admit that. People were willing to spend their money to get to get through what was
The
going
tougher
on
the
back
times, the
in.
more people invest in themselves, right?
Correct. Yeah, they start investing in themselves. So I was, and that's something I learned. I didn't know that back then. So there are definitely going to be some industries that are going to be hit harder than others, but that goes back to the system. And I would recommend going back to any franchise you look at, whether you're working with me or doing it on your own, and asking the questions. It's all about question and due diligence. Asking, number one, the franchisor, if they've been around, what happened in 07, 08. But recently we've going through COVID as we're going through it, 2000 to 2001, 2002. What did the franchisor do to step up? We've had companies step up and negotiate with landlords. That's an extreme case, but really figuring out the right business model for you. And I truly believe this. If you find the right fit for you and you find the right franchisor, you're going to make it work. The economy, the stock market, two separate things. I know people like to kind of mix them together, and they are two separate things as far as key indicators, but it's cyclical. So I started at the very bottom in 2007. So this is not textbook. This is not something, I read this or heard from a friend. I started February 2nd of 2007. Business was good. We hit 2008. Our business exploded. Why did our business explode? Because we had systems in place. We work with a lot of large corporations, our smaller mom and pops, unfortunately, and I never want this, because we also own a small mom and pop restaurant years and years ago. We're not able to make it through the recession. So we actually hired them back on, some as employees, some as contractors. And that's how we grew our business. And it's not because it's someone's misfortune. We just happened to get calls from other companies saying, hey, we need our building serviced. Can you help us? Our previous company is no longer in business, or they weren't able to maintain it. So we really leverage our systems. And what did I do? We treated people well, with respect. And I think that goes a hell of a long way.
Thank you, Giuseppe, for being on your show. And hey, everybody, Giuseppe Grammatico, the franchise guide. Go get his stuff, listen to it podcast. Thank you, Giuseppe. Keep rolling.
Simon, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, if you love what you are hearing, you will love our free masterclasses. Go grab them at strategysprints.com.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategies.